Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. And range test on the Adventure bike from Aventon. Range test, that's something that people ask me for a lot. You know, what's the range of the bike? Very, very common question. Very, very, very hard one to answer because there are just so many factors that factor into a bike's range. You know, weather and battery capacity and tire pressure and terrain, and is it hilly and is it cold and how much are you pedaling? It's just, the list is endless and it's very difficult to give you a range. So you're gonna have to kind of find the range for yourself. But I did a range test on this bike and I'm gonna show you how that went and how far I got the bike to go. But first, let me tell you my factors. So I'll list them on the screen for you. Everything that factored into my range test. So number one, the battery. So battery capacity on this Adventure bike from Aventon is 15 amp hour. It was about 80 degrees outside. I had the tire pressures at 22 PSI. The terrain that I rode on was all pavement, all, you know, city, town, street riding, no off-roading at all. It was a mixture of inclines, declines, small hills, flat ground. I really tried to mix it up. It was not windy that day. I had a rear pack on there, but hardly any weight in there. I myself weigh 170 pounds, 175, somewhere in there, I don't know. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, the biggest factor of all, and that is pedaling. So when I do these range tests, I do not pedal at all. This is a throttle only range test. And the reason I do that, I think that's how it should be done. I want to just take the pedaling completely out of the equation because that's what has the huge effect on your range on these bikes. So I like to eliminate that totally, do a range test with throttle only, bike power only, no pedaling. So that's how we did this. I think that is the way to do a range test to truly know what you're going to get out of these bikes. You know, when you read the range online, it always says something pretty lofty, like 45 miles or 60 miles or 50 plus or whatever. I'm not concerned about that number. You can make that whatever you want, depending on how much you pedal. I want to know the low number. What is the worst range you're going to get? What is the minimum? Because it can only go up from there the more you pedal. So that's what I set out to find. And here's how it went. Take a look. All right, here we go. Throttle only range test on the Aventon Aventure. We'll get a shot of the screen here. We are fully charged, 100% battery. Just took it off the charger. So from full charge to won't move anymore is what we're going to try to do. So let you know how it goes. Let's get started. Let's reset our trip meter here. So I'm going to hold the eye, go into clear trip data. Clear trip data? Yes, we do. Okay, and hit that and we're back. I love the programming in this. It's so simple. It's just all plain English. You just hit the button and scroll through and select yes or no. And throttle only, we're off. These usually take a couple hours to complete, so I'll just check in periodically as we lose battery. All right, first check-in. We are at, let's see, I used 9% of the battery. We're at 5 miles. And I've already started noticing some things. Well, first off, it's pretty interesting to watch the battery percentage go down instead of battery bars go down, because it gives you a much clearer indication of your battery life. So I'm down 9% already at 5 miles. And I'm also noticing the throttle, which is on the Adventure bike from Aventon, you get 20 miles an hour out of the throttle, they say. And that's it. Like, you can't program it any higher. They're all shipped like that. There's nothing to change. I've already changed the speed limit in the settings to as high as it goes. But that speed limit in there is related to the pedal assist, not the throttle. So this throttle will never carry you more than 20 miles an hour, which is kind of a bummer because this bike has such great acceleration and it's such a fantastic looking bike and it's priced well and has great brakes, but I think that's going to be a deal breaker for people, that you can't go faster than 20 with a throttle. All right, checking in again. We are at 9.9 miles, so we've hit our 10-mile mark where we usually go down 1 bar. We're down a bar, but more importantly, the battery percentage says 69%. So I mean, even though it's only showing down 1 bar, we've lost almost a third of our battery, apparently. We're at 69% battery. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I can see the percentage that I feel like this bike is just chewing through batteries super fast. But I wouldn't know that if I couldn't see the percentage. It would just show 1 bar down. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see where it ends up, I guess. But right now I feel like it's depleting very, very quickly. So maybe the percentage, maybe having that in front of my face is not a good thing, because it's freaking me out that it's going down so fast. So let's just keep doing our loops here and find out where we end up. I don't even know where to guess it, honestly. Gosh, what do we have here? Like a 14 amp hour battery? Given where I am now, I'm gonna say it's gonna give me like 23, 24 miles. I don't know. Shot in the dark. We'll see. Check back in a bit. All right, real quick check-in, show you where we are. We're at 12.1 miles. We're at 56% of our battery remaining. And one thing I always like to check is anything getting hot? I can't check the controller because it's hidden underneath the battery, but I'm feeling the motor. I mean, it's warm. It's not hot. That's not hot to the touch. It's warm, but it doesn't feel like I'm going to be damaging it any. You know, I'm relentless when I do these throttle only range tests. I mean, it's just straight throttle maxed out the whole time. So I'm always curious if anything's going to overheat. It doesn't feel like it's overheating at all. So good news there. All right, we are at 17 miles and 28% battery remaining. It feels like it's lost just maybe a little bit of power, but it's still it's still going just fine. I mean, it's got plenty of power we've got a nice long hill here in front of us. We're just gonna pull this hill. Real slow, gradual upgrade, and it's still going, 14 miles an hour up the hill. But, I mean, we're cruising right up this incline right now. 16, 15. 14.9, 13, 14. So, I mean, no problem pulling that hill 14, 15 miles an hour. All right, we are nearing the end, my friends. We are at 8% battery, 8% left. We've gone 21.8 miles, and just for fun, I've come to my hill climb test area. This is where I'll do all my hill climb testing. When I did the comparison video of this adventure bike compared to the Rad Rover, I did this test. I did a hill climb test where they were both fully charged. And a fully charged Rad Rover throttle only went up the hill at, I think, 8 or 9 miles an hour. The adventure bike fully charged went up at, I think it was like 16 or 17 miles an hour. So now we're gonna see what an adventure bike does at 8% battery. Can it still beat a Rad Rover up the hill at 8% battery? So let's find out. All right, here we go. This is going to be sad for Rad if this thing goes faster than them fully charged. Which it looks like it is. I mean, we're doing 13 miles an hour. 12, 11, 12. There you go, 12 miles an hour. So, not to hate on Rad. I mean, Rad makes a fine bike, but I mean, even with, now my battery's down to 4%. So, I'm working with the battery here probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8%. And it's still stronger than a fully charged Rad Rover bike going up a hill. I mean, we're going up a little incline right now. It's right at 17 miles an hour. What it's been doing the whole time. All right, well, that is the end, my friends. We are at 0% battery. It's actually been at 0% for like the last over half a mile. I've been riding at 0%. We went 24.5 miles. And just for fun, let's show you how much juice is left in this thing. It's just totally unusable at this point. This is how fast it'll move you. Maybe 5 miles an hour on flat ground, 4. So it's just not assisting you anymore at all right now. So 24.5 miles out of it. That's almost exactly what I predicted, I think. And just for fun, I'll put up on the screen the other range tests that I've done so you can get a comparison in your head of how far these batteries take you. This is a 15 amp hour battery, I believe, on here, so that's about right. Yeah, there you go, 24.5 miles out of the adventure bike from Aventon. All right, well, there you have it. The bike actually still had pretty good power right up until the end. That's one thing I was kind of impressed with. I mean, even at the end there when I did that hill climb and it had, well under 10% battery, it still climbed it very strong, which I was impressed with. This one, it didn't die a slow death like a lot of the bikes do, where it just gets slower and slower and slower. It still had really decent power right up until like the last couple miles. I'd say you probably had usable power out of the bike up until 22 and a half miles or so. The last couple miles I do that just to drain the battery, just to show that it's dead and it's not moving from there. So definitely over 20 miles of usable power out of this bike on one charge. What else can I tell you? So when I recharged the battery, I put it on, and I came back in like 5 hours later, and it had gone from completely dead to green, its charge. So I missed the time when it flipped over to fully charged. I don't know if that was 4 hours or 5 or what, but after 5 it was ready to go again. Okay, here's another thing. So, you know, these bikes some of them have twist throttle, some of them have thumb throttle. I don't really care either way when I'm riding it around town normally. Either one's fine. If you give me a choice and say which one do you want, I'll take the twist throttle for sure. But either one's fine. But during a range test, the thumb throttle gets old because it's easy to just grab and hold the twist throttle, but to hold your thumb out to the side for like 2 hours straight, it got a little taxing after a while, but whatever, no big deal. What else? Oh yeah, so you can see what I got out of the bike, throttle only. Here's what I want people to do. If you have an adventure bike from Aventon, put in the comments what kind of range you're getting out of the bike. Maybe with a little description, like I pedal a lot and I get 35 miles of range or whatever. And maybe that comment section can become a resource of what's some realistic, real life ranges, kind of like when you log online, you see the MPG ratings from real car drivers. Maybe we can do that with e-bikes here. Like, what's the realistic, real life range that people are getting? So drop it in the comments if you got this bike. I'd be curious to see that. All right, well, I think that about does it for today. I hope you found that helpful or at least entertaining. And if you want more information on this adventure bike from Aventon, check some of my other videos. I'll link them in the description, but I recently compared this to a Rad Rover. I also compared it to a Hemiway Cruiser. So if you want to see those side by sides, it's also my reviews and comparisons playlist. It's on there. And I also did a video on the app. There's an app that you can download from Aventon and connect it to the bike and track your rides and share your rides, and did a whole video on that too, so check that out. And if you like what you saw, do me a favor, consider hitting subscribe and hitting that like button. Thanks for watching.